Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the software video series where we discuss how to manage browsers and client emails such as Outlook and how to troubleshoot common software problems. This video, Part 7, Troubleshooting and Solving Common Windows OS Problems, covers boot problems, frequent shutdowns, system instability, applications crashing, sluggish performance, low memory warnings, slow profile load, USB controller resource warnings, service not starting, time drift, and blue screens of death. While most of these slides are just a list of things to check for certain problems that you may experience as a technician, which I know is a little boring, they should get you thinking about what are the possible causes of a particular problem. When taking the exam, you should be able to relate that the cause they have displayed as a possible answer is the right answer. For those who are going to take that plus exam, there are practice questions at the end of the video. If you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Make sure you have a copy of all your software installation disk and the Windows installation disk. You can use the troubleshooting tools from the Windows installation disk to fix some boot problems and to reinstall Windows. If the screen is black except for a blinking cursor, or if you receive one of the following error messages, this status indicates the boot process is stuck in the bootloader phase. Boot configuration data or BCD missing or corrupted, boot file or MBR corrupted, operating system missing, boot sector missing or corrupted, boot manager missing or corrupted, and unable to boot due to system high missing or corrupted. To fix boot problems, you need to use the Startup Repair tool. Boot from the Windows installation disk. You may need to adjust your BIOS boot order. And on the Install Windows screen, select Next, Repair your computer. On the Choose an Option screen, select Troubleshoot. On the Advanced Options screen, select Startup Repair. After Startup Repair, select Shutdown, then turn on your PC to see if Windows can boot properly. If you are having problems with the boot configuration data, or BCD, or the master boot record, you can select Command Prompt from the Advanced Options and try to repair the boot codes with the following commands: bootrec/fix MBR, bootrec/fix boot. If that does not work, you can try bootrec/rebuild BCD. You can also execute the sfc/scan now command from the Advanced Options command prompt. You can also restore to restore point using the System Restore option. If you get random or frequent shutdowns on Windows, you should check the following. Verify your power settings, including checking power plans and checking sleep and hibernate settings. Try turning off fast startup. Check to see if your system is overheating. Check for power problems, including unstable power. Run a full anti-malware scan. Check your disk for errors. Run a memory scan, and check the event viewer. If your system seems unstable, including software errors, system hangs, and application failures, you should try rebooting the system. Check Event Viewer and application log files. Perform a storage and memory check. Run a system file checker with sfc/scan now. Run a full anti-malware scan. Consider updating the system. And determine if the instability started recently and what changes were made at the time so that you can determine if you can restore to restore point before the changes were made. Consider reinstalling Windows. If your application keeps crashing, you should research any error messages that appear. Reboot the computer. Check the event viewer. Look for and check the application log files. Check Reliability Monitor for a history of application problems and recent changes. Verify the requirements for the software to make sure your system meets the requirements. Use Task Manager to make sure you have sufficient memory. Run the System File Checker, SFC, looking for problems with the system files. Update Windows. Reinstall the applications and update the application. If you have general sluggish performance, you should check Task Manager to ensure you don't have any bottlenecks, including high CPU, memory, and I/O utilization. Consider increasing resources or reducing the workload. Check disk space. Consider defragging the hard drive. If not using a mechanical hard drive, considering upgrading to an SSD. Check if your laptop is using power saving mode where the processor is throttled. Load the latest updates and drivers, and update the antivirus or anti-malware package and perform a full scan. If you have indications such as error messages that indicate low memory, you may need to add more memory or reduce the system workload, including closing unused programs. If you cannot add more memory or reduce the system workload, you should consider increasing the virtual memory. Check Task Manager to verify that all your memory is showing that you are actually low in memory, and look to see if you have any processes consuming large amounts of memory. Consider rebooting the computer. If your Windows computer is part of the Active Directory domain, the first time you log into the computer with the Active Directory user account, you'll need to create a profile, which may take a few minutes. Subsequent login should be much faster since the profile is already created. If you have a roaming profile, your profile is stored on a centralized server, which must be copied every time you log in. If your login is slow because it's having trouble loading the profile, you should check the following. If you have made a lot of changes to your profile on another system, your profile may be slow to load as it's updating your profile. Network problems and latency can contribute to the slowness. Make sure you have network connection. Look at the components of the login script and profiles to ensure that all components are available. To help isolate the problem, you should try logging into another computer to see how the performance is. Consider deleting the profile and rebuild the profile. USB controller resource warnings typically indicate that the USB controller or controllers on your system are experiencing resource conflicts or limitations, including the ability to supply enough power to all of the devices. Try disconnect any unused devices. Try updating the USB controller and device drivers. Check power requirements and consider using powered USB hubs for high-power devices. Try connecting devices directly to your computer's USB ports. Consider that one or more than one USB device could be faulty or the USB controller is faulty. If a service will not start, check the following. Reboot the computer. Check service dependencies. Review and research error messages. Check the event viewer logs. Check service account permissions that the service uses to run. Verify the service configuration. Run System File Checker or SFC, and if possible, reinstall the service. Some computers' internal clocks will drift over time. If your computer time drifts by more than 5 minutes, you'll have trouble logging into some services, including using Kerberos. If your clock drifts, you should sync time with the Internet Time Server or company time server. Update the BIOS. If possible, replace the CMOS battery or install an auxiliary CMOS battery. Check for faulty power supply. Verify the time zone settings. Check for overheating and consider replacing the motherboard or the system. The blue screen of death is an error screen displayed by the Microsoft Windows operating system that indicates a critical system error or crash that it cannot recover from. When a blue screen of death occurs, the system halts and the screen turns blue, displaying a message that provides information about the error and prompts the user to take action. The blue screen of death displays an error message that typically includes information about the nature of the error, error codes, and possibly instructions on what actions to take. Typically, the error message includes technical jargon that is not always easy to understand for non-technical users. Error messages may include a hexadecimal stop code. Common causes of the blue screen of death include the hardware failures such as faulty memory or hard drives, driver issues, software conflicts, operating system corruption, and overheating. When encountering a blue screen of death, it is essential to note the error message and stop code displayed on the screen. This information can help identify the underlying cause of the problem and guide the troubleshooting process. You should then research the stop error. If you get a blue screen of death, you should try restarting the computer. If you cannot boot the system successfully, try safe boot. Research the error message, particularly if it occurs more than once. Check the event viewer. Check for any changes to the system. Update device drivers. Run System File Checker or SFC. Update Windows. Run Windows Memory Diagnostic and check for disk errors. Update the anti-malware package and perform a full scan. Update BIOS. Reset your memory and power and data cables. Check for faulty hardware. And consider using System Restore or Restore from Backup. For help about specific blue screens of death or stop error messages, refer to the following sites as shown on the screen. Most people do not realize that Windows supports compatibility mode when running applications. This comes in handy for legacy applications, whereas an updated application is not readily available to run on newer Windows or an application that requires to run as an administrator. To access compatibility settings, you can right-click an executable file or shortcut to an executable file, click Properties, and click the Compatibility tab. If you have not already with an older program running on a new version of Windows, you can check with the vendor's website to check for system requirements for the application, updates for the software, or if they provide any workarounds. You should also use your favorite search engine looking for workarounds. You can have Windows pretend that is an older version of Windows when running that specific application, such as Windows 7 or Windows 8, by using the Run This Program in Compatibility Mode 4 option. To run an application as administrator, you use the Run This Program as Administrator. Of course, this option is not usually recommended as it could be a security problem. Lastly, you can run the Compatibility Troubleshooter, which will guide you through these settings. Question: if you get a blue screen of death, what do you need to provide the technician? Answer: the stop messenger code. Question: every time you boot your computer running Windows, you get a blue screen of death. What should you do first? Answer: perform a safe mode boot. Question: you cannot log into a domain successfully on one computer, but you can log in another computer with no problem. The user can log on to the computer using a local account. What is most likely the problem? Consider time drift. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, you can fix many boot problems with this Windows installation disk by performing a startup repair. If you're having problems with the boot configuration data, or BCD, or the master boot record, you can use the bootrec command to rebuild the MBR and the BCD. If you're running low on memory or other resources, consider using Task Manager to verify resources and if any process is consuming large amounts of memory. USB controller resource warnings typically indicate that the USB controller or controllers on your system are experiencing resource conflicts or limitations, including the ability to supply enough power to all of the devices. Some computers' internal clocks will drift over time. If your computer time drifts by more than 5 minutes, you'll have trouble logging into some services, including using Kerberos. If your clock drifts, you should sync time with the Internet Time Server or company time server. The blue screen of death, or BSOD, is an error screen displayed by Microsoft Windows operating system that indicates a critical system error or crash that it cannot recover from. Common causes of the blue screen of death include hardware failure, such as faulty memory or hard drives, driver issues, software conflicts, operating systems corruption, and overheating. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be Software, Part 8, Common Mobile Software and Security Issues. If you have not already, don't forget to subscribe to the Pat Hatcher Back channel. Thank you.